The Wednesday week is sponsored by Michael Constantine Wealth Management. We bet you can't find a financial advisor closer to Hillsborough Stadium.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday week. My name's Dan Fudge, and with me tonight I've got John, I've got Simon, I've got Ben. If you're watching this on YouTube, it does look like I'm about to break in a song. I can assure you I'm not. I'm having some microphone issues tonight, and this is what I've got this evening. So I might sound smooth and sexy for you this evening, but also, you know, I might sound like you live your life like a candle in the wind. See, I've got it, haven't I? I've got it. Right then, so oh god, who are we talking about this week? I mean, God, it's got to be somebody new, and is it going to be Wimbledon? Is it going to be Spurs? Is it? I mean, who are we playing, lads? I mean, who are we talking about this week, Si?
Well, why don't we talk about Saturday and talk about a win at Hillsborough that put us top? How about that one?
Let's talk about that one first, because the other one I can't be arsed with. Like, honestly, I'm sick to death of talking about the other team. So yes, let's talk about top of the table clash. We've got one game in hand. Win this and we go top, and still maintain our game in hand. Big attendance at Hillsborough Ben this week. I mean, it weren't too shabby, were it? It weren't pretty though either.
No, it were good. I don't think it were as best performance of the season, but it were up there, and we did what we had to do. That early goal, I think it'd been a completely different game had it been 0-0 at half time, and then they'd probably been happier with a draw. But that early goal really put us on top, and first half dominated. I think we could have had a couple more. Probably should have created a bit more in the first half if we're going to be critical, and then second half, we just showed how solid we can be, really, which we've been all season, and we don't really show any sign of, stopping that. I mean, 17 clean sheets for the season, and we're at early Feb. I think that equals club record, doesn't it? Which it shows how solid we are, and it should have been 2-0. Let's be honest. I've got a bit to say about that because it's absolutely bullshit, but we'll get to that.
I mean, to be fair, he was stood right in front of the keeper, but I guess we'll get to that. Now, John, I mean, I think Ben's right in his assessment there. It was a great win. We had a great crowd. It was a result we wanted. But when you actually think about the performance that was put in, I mean, it weren't our best one, were it? But surely that's a sign of a good team, right?
Absolutely. I thought we absolutely nullified Plymouth. They obviously would have been wanting to come away with a draw at least, preserve their top spot. I thought we controlled the game from start to finish. I never really thought that they were a threat. The only threat was that it was only 1-0, and while it's only 1-0, there's always the chance that they can get a free kick, or they got a free kick from diving, didn't they? But deflected goal, anything like that. But I thought we absolutely controlled the game. I thought the crowd helped. I thought Hillsborough being over 30,000 was an absolute thing of beauty. I wish we could do it every week. I think it makes a massive difference to the players, to the atmosphere, to the away players. I think it can be intimidating because Plymouth won't have played in front of a crowd as big as that for a long, long time, I would suspect. And I thought it all sort of worked in our favour. And but for some horrendous officiating, in terms of looking at our replay screen. I mean, we had a screen for like a decent screen for years. We get one in and it's coming back to bite us on the bum, innit? And it would have been a comfortable and well-deserved 2-0 victory instead of just a 1-0, but thoroughly deserved it. And what made me smile was when I look back on some of the videos, they were, I think right before we scored, the Plymouth fans were singing, "We're Plymouth, Argyle, we're top of the league." And then, boom, Patterson just slots one in, cracking finish. And we said, thanks very much, we'll have that song, we're top of the league. And it was just a great day all round, wasn't it?
Yeah, it weren't too bad, was it, Simon? Now, I mean, I thought it was great, but I tell you what it was. I watched Everton earlier on that day play. Who did they play? They beat 1-0. Arsenal. Right, they beat top of the league Arsenal, and you've heard that phrase before, 12th man, and get the crowd behind them and stuff like that. And the Everton fans were in fine voice. I mean, it was actually really impressive to see Goodison Park as full as what it was and as loud as what they were, given the troubles that they're having. And at that point, watching that game, at my advanced age, it was the first time that I realised what the 12th man was, and it's every touch, every niggle, every pull, and it's noise, and it's vitriol, and it's passion. And we had that in spades on Saturday, didn't we?
Yeah, it was great. It was wonderful. It was wonderful to see from start to finish. To, like John said, Hillsborough is a thing of beauty when it's full. And you know what? The cynic inside me was expecting issues in regards to driving there, parking, stewarding, running out of pies by 10 minutes into arriving, running out of beer. Wednesday did it absolutely perfectly. From Friday, no, honestly, from Friday announcing that turnstiles would be open early, to just basically showing what a load of rubbish the issues with Newcastle were, and actually proving that this is a slick run club that can do things right for a change. And it was great. Yeah, there were queues, but there were always going to be queues, isn't there? Because there's 34,000 there. But it was absolutely brilliant. And then to get in there from the start of Hi Ho Silver Lining and watching the manager clap in. And I think that, those that haven't been this season or have been to a few, to see the manager doing that and get involved just brought everybody on board. And it was wonderful. And then during the game, like John said, we're top of the league, and Pato just shut them up. And they just went quiet. And then we ruled the roost then. We ruled the roost from the start to the finish of the game, despite them having the 12th man being the guy wearing the black, which was, to be honest, if we were to talk about the keeper, about the referee, he had a good first half.
Yeah.
But I just do not know what happened from the moment he came out. I can't remember what the first challenge was, but it was almost like, what has gone on there? And it went from bad to worse.
There was one where we had a corner at the cop end, and their defender was all over Flint, and then the referee stopped the corner, had a word with them both, and then Flint still got smashed to the floor. Like,
it was penalty.
Against him.
Yeah, and there was an offside where there were 3 players stood behind.
Oh, gee, that's the best one. That is the best. I think that's the funniest offside I've ever seen. From there's an angle from the north stand where kids videoed it from top corner at north stand, and that's even better because you see the linesman and you see the point at which he thinks, "Oh, that's offside, that one." And there's a Plymouth Argyle player about a good 2 yards behind Michael Smith to the side. Yeah. Bizarre. I mean, at time I said to my dad, I said, "No, nobody's moved. It's not like anyone's like run past anybody there. Everyone's just stood still." I'm not sure.
But it was night and day, wasn't it, in regards to the performance? And that was the weirdest thing. That, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it was almost like somebody had slipped a brown envelope under the door of the officials with either 1-1 written on it or 2-1 written on it. To basically, because it was just mad. Either that or he fell over and banged his head. I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether we're going to go into detail about the disallowed goal, but it was just horrendous.
I'll tell you what. Let's get into something. I just want to tell you about something first, and then we'll get into the disallowed goal. Now, good few years ago, I don't know if some of you know, my stepbrother is one of the coaches at Liverpool. He's the under-18 coach, and back in the day when he was cutting his teeth, a good, I want to say 8 to 10 years ago now, a mate of mine, Bristol City fan, he says, "I've got tickets to the Bristol Derby. Do you want to come down?" I went, "Yeah, I'm up for that. I want to see how the cider drinkers go and do derbies at their end." And at the time, I didn't know where he was. You know what I mean? And my stepbrother was walking through the stand, and I went, "All right, John." He went, "All right, Dan." And he's there, and he's in the home end at Bristol City where we were, and he was walking through the side to get to the gantry to get to the top, because he was the guy that used to video the games and then give the players feedback on their prowess and where they should have been and what they should have been doing. And he's there in all his Bristol Rovers garb, and I've never seen somebody so edgy. When I stopped, when I stopped talking to him, I was like, oh, he's got his head on a swivel like Frank Lampard in 2006. You know what I mean? Like looking around him, and on that day, I said to him, who's sticking out for you? Like, what have you got an eye on? He said, it's their centre back you've got to look out for. And I went, all right, I'll have a look. Cheers, John. See you again. See you later. And as they left, their car got smashed up. Like, they do derbies as well as Sheffield does, to be fair. And I watched this big, tall Adonis of a man absolutely heading the world away with his forehead, because my brother said so. And from that moment, I went, I love him. He's right up my street. Absolute king of shithousing. And then fast forward a few years, he's now playing for Cardiff, this centre-back. And he was doing the star jumps behind our wall. And we conceded a goal there. And I thought, brilliant. And then there was the, I don't know if you remember the Bristol City GIFs, for when they scored. And he used to do the DJ one or the one where he ate all the spaghetti. They were absolutely brilliant. And since that day, since I nearly got my stepbrother chivved up on the on the North Stand at Bristol City, I've been in love with Aidan Flint. And when he came to us the first time, I was over the moon. And then when he got that injury, went back and then started playing for them again. I was absolutely devastated. I never thought I'd see it again, but I was just happy once he'd put on a Sheffield Wednesday shirt. And then now he's back. Ben, that man was sublime on Saturday, wasn't he?
He did everything that you're going to ask of him between now and the end of the season. Edit and kick it as far away from our goal as possible. And there were in the second half where, probably late on as well, where they're just hoofing it forward. And he's met it on probably just shy of halfway line.
Yeah.
Landed it well inside box. Easily. Just... we're never going to be able to perfectly replace Mark McGuinness, and I still don't think we have. But we've done, I think, as level best to do that. I think we've got as good as we were ever going to get in replacing the hole that he's left.
I mean, John, did you have any concerns about our defensive back line? I mean, when you think about it, right, against Plymouth, our three centre backs were Iorfa, Flint, and Palmer, who, for all intents and purposes, are a bit, or what some would refer to as a makeshift back line. No Hennigan, no McGuinness, no Ihekwe. So Iorfa's been stepped up. Palmer is essentially a fullback. Aidan Flint's not played football in Christ knows when. I mean, that could have gone to shit, right? John?
Yeah, I mean, what Moore's done this season is kind of had to do as well. His players have had to learn new positions. We've seen it with Reece James. We've seen it with Liam Palmer stepping into centre half. Iorfa's gone from playing right back to centre half, and then from playing in a back four to a back three. They've all had to adapt, haven't they? And credit to them. I think largely they've all done well with it. To be fair, and I think Flint coming in just gave us that aerial presence that we kind of lost when Hennigan went down, because that was kind of Hennigan's strength more than anything, was his physicality, his height, his aerial duels that he would win. And I think bringing Flint in has sort of filled that sort of void from losing Hennigan. And you could see on Saturday he was getting his head to everything, wasn't he? He must be about 6'4" as it is, but he jumps really well for a tall guy.
He's sexy though, isn't he? And he's sexy.
Yeah, and he's just one of them characters as well, isn't he? We've got, and having Patterson in the back line as well. You got two shithouses in the back line there that will get stuck in, not afraid to put their head in where most people won't put their feet. So I thought it worked well, and I think not really concerned, because whether it's the level that we are or whether it's the confidence that we've got, or we don't mind who we're going to play at the back. 17 clean sheets tells you that we'll stick anyone in there, and we're confident we're going to get a performance out of them, and we're going to be solid at the back. So they're obviously a lot better and a lot more well drilled at the back than they were perhaps the start of the first couple of months of the season.
Absolutely. Now, Simon, there's an element of the team that must not be named ever again for at least 2 years. They come to Hillsborough and they try and stop us playing football. Many teams have tried to do it at Hillsborough. Come on, stop us playing, try and neutralise Ban. And a lot of the time we've played round and we've won 1-0, we've won 2-0, we've not conceded. But Plymouth was a different kettle of crabs for me, and there was a point where we've had to stop them playing football a little bit. And when we had the usual 2 p.m. meltdown about the lineup, you must have seen Patterson in there, like most, and thought, what the fucking hell's happening there? How has this happened? How have we got here? But then, as the game rode on, and the physicality that Flint and Patterson possess, all of a sudden that change that Moore made to put him in that position was inspired, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think when we discussed this in regards to the lineup last week, I asked Steve who he thought he would play at the back, and Flint wasn't mentioned. We didn't think Flint would actually play. It was Femwo, Iorfa, and Palmer. So to be walking down Penistone Road and see Femwo wasn't even in the side, wasn't even on the bench, and he dropped Pato into wing-back role. That was quite a surprise, but it was inspired. It was absolutely inspired. Helped by a midfield who were so up for it. You know, again, you got Volks, you got Bannon, you got Byers, all closing down. So they were doing that. We are not going to let you play, Plymouth. We are not going to let you attack. We are not going to let you build the ball from the back. We are going to close you down. And that's what we did for probably 80 minutes of the entire game.
I think
when we
you're right about
players,
Bannon. Bannon was a man possessed that day.
He was.
And as daft it sounds, because of the level that he plays at, he doesn't really get enough credit from the fans online and shows like this and all the rest of it. You know, because his bare minimum is so high. But I need to mention Bannon here, because I thought he was sublime. And the best bit about Bannon, and we used to discuss it a couple of years ago when we were on the decline out of the Championship, that there was a point where, because of Bannon's character and because of his ability, there was a point where he would demand the ball all the time, and everything. I think Ash, you used the phrase, everything has to go through Bannon. And what we have now is a Barry Bannon surrounded by players who aren't, what's the word, intimidated by him a little bit. So, for example, Butterfield and Pelopessi, when Bannon said, "Give me the ball," they give him the ball. Whereas Volks and Byers, because they're so confident in their own ability, they'll be like, "No, you're all right, Barry. I'm going to slot this one down the right-hand side." And Barry's like, "All right, lads, you know, whatever plays better for. I'm just an option here for you," as opposed to, you know, trying to dictate.
Yeah,
exactly right. And what that did was free him up, and some of the balls he was playing through was absolutely astounding.
In a way, what it's been, we've got a benefit from the fact of Bannon getting injured, because Volks came into the side unfit at the start of the season, was in and out. And what it did when Bannon got injured, it forced Moore to give Volks a run in the side. And what that's actually done is it's actually made him match fit. To which point now you've got three midfielders there who are. I love Bannon to death. I think he's fantastic, but I actually prefer George Byers from a personal point of view. I think George Byers is a fantastic footballer, fantastic player, and by having that level of class in that midfield, which we've not had before, so you're exactly right, Pelopessi and players of that ilk in the past, they haven't been, say, fit to lace Bannon's boots. But I actually think now we've got three midfielders we've got the best midfield in this league, and the midfield that is mid-championship level as well, if not higher, with those three players. So what Bannon's injury has done is allowed Volks to come through and get his form back. Byers has been in and out, obviously, with a couple of injuries, but that's kept his fitness level up as well. So now we've got a midfield that it is the best. It is absolutely the best. And if we can keep those three fit and firing, then that trophy, League One trophy, is going to have Sheffield Wednesday inscribed on it at the end of the season.
That'd be sexy, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? Now, in terms of that midfield, Ben, I want to talk about Dennis Adeniran. Didn't really set the world on fire when he came on. Don't get me wrong, he came into an absolute cauldron at the time. But didn't really do it for me. I don't. Am I being overcritical because the rest of the midfield had such a good game? But he started out great because we were like, oh, look how much he runs, look how much he runs, and then now we're like, look how much he runs. Does he know how to play football though? You know what I mean? Is he element of that, or am I being a bit of a dick?
I think it's partly to do with how well your main three complement each other. I think Volks complements Bannon and Byers even better than probably Luongo did last season. And then you drop a Adeniran in, and he's different to all three of them. He's more box to box. He's more of a runner, whereas Volks is the one that you'd probably go take out for him, or Byers, and he's not as technical. Adeniran for me is technically able as Byers is, and he's not the holding midfielder, the one that's going to break up play like Volks is. I said it a couple of weeks ago, I don't think it's necessarily that he's weaker, albeit probably technically, a little bit weaker than those three, but he's not a million miles up. I think he's different, and I don't think he complements the two that he's in there with, whoever that may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like, but then when you go further down the squad and you look at players like Backinson, where does he fit in? Who's there? Who's he complimenting? You know what I mean?
See, that's where I think he's the one that's probably the one, if you go take Volks out at any point, that you drop in there. Because Simon's shaking his head at me, but he's the one that's
I went last night, mate. We'll talk about last night.
But if you, I'll keep shaking your head, but I'm thinking like for like, Volks is the one that, if you do have to take him out if he gets injured at any point, whether you like it or not, I think Backinson's the one that's going to come in there and play in that position, because I just think he's better suited to replace Volks.
Yeah, he's the deep line second choice midfielder that we have, isn't he? His main game is to sit back there and try and replicate what Volks does with deep line midfielder, spray the ball out. Probably could do with getting his foot in a bit more than he does. I think Simon will agree with that, but I think certainly Backinson and Adeniran, they're just getting sort of odd game here and there, aren't they? They are the backups, aren't they? And it's down to them to try and they've got a big job on their hands, by the way, to try and force one of the current three out of there, which in all likelihood doesn't look like that will happen this season. But there's certainly a lot stronger backups than, like we mentioned before, when we were in the Championship and you had Pelopessi, who as soon as he got the ball was looking for Bannon, wasn't he? He didn't want any part of the football. So
this for me is best midfield we've had since second year.
Well, it depends. For me, it depends. Do you know what? That's a hell of a claim, that one. Did you just say second best midfield since Carlos, or?
I'd say this is the best midfield three with Bannon, Byers, and Volks since we had Alex Lopez.
Since Kieran Lee graced the shores of Hillsborough.
Yeah. I'd say we'll look back in 3 years' time and say that Byers will be thought of in as high, if not higher regard, than Kieran Lee was.
Hell of a claim, that, Ben. But we'll come back to that in 2 years. We'll clip that, yeah, and then that's what we'll say. I mean, Simon, before you disagree, I was there with you at Southampton, and I thought Backinson had a great game, as did I for playing randomly at fullback, if I remember rightly. But that Southampton game, that was a Backinson game. Sat there, broke it up, played some great balls through. What's he doing different now?
Should I leave it till when we talk about the Fleetwood game, or should I just
tell you what?
Let's leave it.
Let's put a pin in it, and I'm gonna give you the disallowed goal.
Oh my life! Right, just bang! My head is exploding. So the referee was not gracing himself with any sort of favours in the second half. The goal, Byers who scored it, wasn't it? In my mind, and seeing all the videos since, was a legitimate goal, 100% legitimate goal. And it was given. We celebrated, and we celebrated, and we celebrated, and then the guy who sits in front of us turned around and said, referee's gone out. And I remember seeing the referee just looking at our guys celebrating and virtually pointing to the spot, this is kick for kick-off. And next minute, he stood with the linesman. The linesman, by the way, who never raised his flag until they had a bit of a chat, and then he raised his flag and he gave it offside. Which everybody in the entire stadium, other than the Plymouth fans who believed a sigh of relief, was just smacked. So, weren't sure. There was talks, well, did Gregory impede it? Ethan was saying he jumped over the ball, a la, who was it, Marcus Rashford, the other week against Man City. And then, as we were driving home, they interviewed Moore, and he was saying that it was disallowed after the linesman had watched the replay on the big screen. Now, apparently, the Plymouth coaches had been pointing to the big screen when they were watching it and getting the attention of the linesman to look at the big screen. Then Liam Palmer was also interviewed after the game, and he was also reiterated that they were told that it was disallowed due to the linesman watching the big screen. Okay? Now, VAR only runs in the Premiership. That goal was legitimately given, and it should not have been disallowed due to watching the replay on the screen.
Go on, Ben.
So I'll chip in here as well. Even using the screen, which you haven't got the best view at, you've got
one angle, wasn't it?
You've looked like that. You've looked up at big screen. You can't make a decision off of that in split second. You're better off making a decision there as you've seen it live. Anyway, for me, I still don't think that you should rule that out, even when you've watched it on big screen. In my opinion, Gregory isn't in front of the goalkeeper. For me, he's adequately enough to the left. I had a little bit of a debate with Dale Johnson on Twitter. It might have been on Sunday about this. He said that Gregory had interfered with the goalkeeper. For me, I were on the cop, and usually I'll be a bit, I'm not sure if I want to celebrate that one, if I think it's a 50-50. But Gregory's well to the side of him and in line. It's not in front of him. The ball's already past the goalkeeper by the time Gregory's jumping over it. The goalkeeper, it's past him before he knows it. He's not made any attempt really to dive for the ball. It's not like Gregory stood next to him and prevented him from getting down to his left to try and save it. So for me, I don't see how he's interfered. And Simon referred to Marcus Rashford example, which I did on Twitter as well. How can you say that one isn't interfering with the goalkeeper, yet Gregory is? When, for me, I just can't see how he's interfered with the ball's past him.
John, help him out here, because I tell you what we're getting now is whataboutery. You know what I mean? Come on now, aren't we? We're going, well, if Rashford this, then Lee Gregory that. Come on, John. You've got the deciding vote on this, because this is utter shit they're talking here. Come on, pal.
It was a fair goal, and it should have stood. And I think no. The problem was it was and I think Moore kind of was pragmatic in the end when they interviewed him, because we'd won the game. But if that had been to get a point or something like that, and or that had cost us because it was disallowed, then I think we'd have been making a lot more of it. But we got the point. We got the 3 points. We got the win. So there's almost this sense of, just let it go. But it should have been a goal. I don't think Gregory was interfering with the keeper. I think it was a desperate plea by the keeper.
Goalkeeper gave up on it as well. He appealed to start with, but then, he didn't carry on. He thought, fair enough, it's gone.
Yeah, it was past him before it even, Gregory didn't impede him in his vision or anything. It was just a good finish by Byers. It was past him. It was gone. It was in the back of the net. It was a desperate plea, putting his hand up. Referee were fine with it. He was pointing back to the centre circle for kick-off. Linesman, like you say, if he's been encouraged to look at the big screen. By the way, the stadium manager better be on his toes next game, because you don't want that happening again, do you? But yeah, for me, it should have been a goal. Should have stood. Should have been 2-0.
And then again, the replay went up because it got allowed. You know what I mean? Like that's why it went up. Okay,
but they're not supposed to show replays, are you? Because it can,
I thought there was a rule against it because there was it would incite violence or something like that. If I remember rightly.
But it's the fact that as you've said it's been given, and we didn't really have any suspicion to think that they were going to rule that one out, to be honest.
Listen to Dan Fudge here, right? So I tell you what, there was a point when it went in, right, where I went, he's going to call that offside. Straight away, as soon as it went in, he's going to call it offside. I feel that where Gregory was stood is in what you'd refer to as the periphery of the goalkeeper's vision, right? And I feel that there's an element of the goalkeeper not even diving for the ball because he thought, well, look at this silly sod stood offside here. Then Gregory jumped over the ball and it went in, right? Now, he's pointed to the spot, and in true fashion, true interpretation of the rules, they shouldn't have been using the replays on the screen to disallow it. He's allowed it. That's football. Get on with it. See you later. You know what I mean? And that's a goal. That's a legitimate goal. However, I just don't think it should have been allowed in the first place. I genuinely think he was interfering with play just by his sheer presence there. And if you're going to use Rashford with whataboutery in terms of that, shouldn't have stood either because he's in the bloody way. You know how a player. That's why it was such a contentious decision, because that's why people spoke about it, because he was interfering with play just by his sheer position, and I think that's what Gregory did. Have we had any real explanation from anybody saying, was it given for offside then, or was it given for touching Lee Gregory, for example? Have they decided that's what it was? I've not seen anything about the exact reason about why it's been disallowed.
The rule that I'd seen, well, I said I had a debate with Dale Johnson and Adam Oxley as well. And Adam Oxley replied, I don't know if I'll be able to find it quickly enough. May be able to. This is it. He replied with the law and the interpretation of it. A player in offside position at the moment the ball is played or touched by a teammate is only penalised on becoming involved in active play by interfering with play by playing or touching a ball, passed or touched by a teammate, interfering with an opponent by preventing an opponent from playing or being able to play the ball clearly, obstructing the opponent's line of vision. It could be that, or challenging an opponent for the ball, or clearly attempting to play a ball which is close when this action impacts on an opponent, or the final one, making an obvious action which clearly impacts on the ability of an opponent to play the ball. Or there's one more final one, gaining an advantage by playing the ball or interfering with an opponent when it has rebounded or been deflected off the goalpost, crossbar, match official or an opponent, or been deliberately saved by an opponent.
Well, that's cleared that up then, lads. There you are.
It's the vision one, isn't it? It's got to be the vision one.
You'd imagine it's either the vision one or make an obvious action which clearly impacts on the ability of an opponent to play the ball. In that case,
of which case, Dan eloquently argued, but you're wrong. The ball came in from he came in from the right hand side. Byers came in from the right hand side. Gregory was stood to the left of goal. If Gregory was impeding his sight on the ball, then what on earth was he looking to the left hand side when the actual
because
attack
there's
came
a player coming in
side?
And he's got to go and mark him. So what he's done, he's moved to the left a little bit, left his near post open, coming over just by his presence. He's got to essentially mark him, and that's why he is in play, as it were. Now, if he was offside, if he was where he was, it bounced off the post and he shinned it in, then then
it's offside.
Then it's offside.
But why did it take so long for the linesman to flag?
That's the wrong bit. That's the wrong bit. Whatever goes on that screen. I mean, whatever happens on that screen. 6 years ago, we used to have the word "sh" written on it. You know what I mean? And now all of a sudden, it's a bloody like that. That's mental, right? That's wrong, isn't it? I genuinely agree with. But in terms of the actual, what's the word? In terms of the actual decision itself, I can see why it's made, and this is why, for me, I feel that VAR doesn't work, because I still believe that a good chunk of the rules are interpretation. We've all been on the park, and someone's gone handball, and the other kid's gone ball to hand. There was never a rule that said ball to hand. What the fuck are you talking about? But we've all shouted it, right? You know what I mean? So there are still rules where it's 6-1 after the other. And if you're having a chat on somewhere as reasonable as Twitter, Ben, you know what I mean? One of you posting up the rules essentially proved both of you right and both of you wrong at the same time. It's not any clearer, is it? Right? Mm. However, I will always plant my flag in the fact that they shouldn't be using the screen, and there shouldn't be 90 seconds after disallowing a goal because they've seen a replay on the screen.
Mhm.
And what the fuck are we doing as a stadium by giving them that opportunity? As soon as we saw the Plymouth bench gesticulating towards the camera, get it off.
Yeah.
Get an advert for the restaurant
Fuck
up on
up,
there, Erstie's
Yeah.
Bar or something. Fuck's sake.
The problem being is that that was on top of every other decision that the referee had made during the game. So it wasn't as if he'd made one mistake in that second half. So Wilkes being literally having the shirt pulled off him, which was a yellow card every day. Wilkes got away from me, played advantage. Then
Played a good
the
advantage
play,
as well.
yeah, it was a good advantage. And then the play broke down, and he walked up to the player who literally should have had a yellow card and just went, "Don't do it again." And this is that impacted on all of it. And luckily we got 3 points. Like Ben said, if it had been we'd got a draw or heaven forbid they'd beaten us 2-1, I think we'd be having a different discussion now about that decision.
Absolutely. It's very easy to be pragmatic when you've won. You know what I mean? Right, lads. So
would have been getting Michael Palin on town hall steps if that had been.
We'd have had them all out. Would have been shoes off and everything. Right. So as it stands right now, Sheffield Wednesday, top of the league. We've still got that game in hand that we were desperately protecting. And I'm honestly, there are very few times as a Sheffield Wednesday fan do you come up a game where it's must win and we've won. We haven't done that in a number of years. You know what I mean? Like when I think back to that game against Crystal Palace at the end of the season, when I think back to the game at Wembley, when I think back to that game at the weekend,
Derby away.
That Derby County, you know what I mean? There are a whole host of things where we've needed a favour from the footballing gods and we've never got it. And that one on Saturday was amazing. And again, it's one of those things where you go, how can 11 blokes kicking a football around the pitch wearing all the same shirt influence what a good mood I was in all weekend as well? Like it's absolutely insane, right? However, 3 days later, we're in the fourth round of the FA Cup against, checks notes, a team called Fleetwood.
Oh.
I've heard of them. Yeah, played them before.
I think we might have played them once or twice before. Who wants to pick this one up? Because if I'm honest, without sounding like one of those guys on Twitter, because there's no really way of wording it on Twitter without sounding like an arsehole, I don't care. Like, after that game on Saturday, right, if we'd have lost that game on Saturday, I'd have gone, let's go and smash them. Let's give them something to cheer about. But when we beat Plymouth on Saturday, I remember thinking, I now don't give a shit about the cup. Like, after Newcastle game, most important thing in the world. Right, I was like, this is amazing, and then we're gonna get through a round because we've only got Fleetwood to beat, a team who we keep beating left, right, and centre. We're their bogey team, and then we went up there on Tuesday night. Simon, you went yourself, right?
I did.
Oh, tell us about it, because I'm going to give you 4 minutes.
I went up with Ash and our boys and AD. So AD managed to make an away game, and it actually kicked off.
Took place.
Yeah, it took place. Yeah. We actually had a discussion in the pub beforehand. So we've had 2-1 at their place, 1-0 at Hillsborough, 1-1. So we thought this is going to be them winning this game. We drove along, obviously the 62. We went past Burnley, and we were like, right, well that's where we'd have to go if we get past and Burnley beat Ipswich. And you know what? It's a midweek game, and we just all went, meh. Really, really, really not interested. And you know what?
Did the atmosphere reflect that? Was it a bit flat as a
on both sides? On both sides. So Fleetwood didn't bring a lot either. We didn't. I think we'd sold out, but to be honest, I think a lot of the fans decided we're going to give it a miss travelling up there. It was 3.25 hours up there. It was a horrible journey up there. And I'll be honest with you, I feel that the team felt the same.
You reckon?
I felt that this was a sort of like, oh, do we have to? I think if we'd had a glamour tie in the next round, home or away, I think it might have been a different team selection. So we'll get on to the team selection. He made 10 changes, and that's where I feel a little bit let down. Not by Moore, but by the players who came in. There was players who came in who. And I'm not going to pick on players like Jaden Brown and the young lad who played, because Jaden Brown's not played since October. The young lad who had is he 17, John? I think he was his debutant. And I, you know what? I thought he had a really good game. I thought he was the shining star out of it. But players like Backinson, the midfield of Adeniran, Delibashiru, Backinson really let the fans down and let more down because they are the players who are the ones that should have taken on board and pushed. You know, like Backinson and Denerin and Delibashiru, they're on the cusp of the first team. And they didn't turn up. Midfield was absolutely dreadful. I think he got his selection at the back a little wrong because that guy who plays, the big guy who plays up front for them, number 20, who scored the other week against us, he was either up against Hunt.
Is that how you pronounce it?
He was up against. I mean, he's a massive unit, good player, really good player, and he was up against Palmer at one point. He was up against Hunt at one point. We were playing Hunt as a centre back. Then they put Femwo across on him, and not all three of them couldn't cope. To which point, obviously, at half time, we made a substitution at the back and brought Dominic on, and it felt to me that the players felt the game was a minor irritation in their way to hopefully winning the league. That it was just a bit of a game that we've got to play. I mean, we talked about it walking back to the car afterwards, and we said that maybe what we should have done is basically say to the fans, you know what, we're going to put the youth team out. You're going to put the youth team out. Don't bother coming up to watch it. We'll knock some prices off some tickets for a home game. If the FA fine us, fuck them. We don't care. And just basically treat it with the contempt it deserved. I'd never ever want to go to Fleetwood again. And I must say, if I can say one positive, the stewards and the police of Fleetwood and that East Flight coast were brilliant to the Wednesday fans. They were wishing us a safe journey home. I mean, it's a long way to go up and the team not perform, and it was quite depressing. And they were brilliant. The stewards were brilliant, but I never, ever want to see Fleetwood ever again. They are a horrible team. They have a horrible manager. And it's just, I don't want to. If anything, we have to go up so we don't go to Fleetwood again.
So that's what it is. You know what I mean? That's the exact reason. I don't want to talk about Fleetwood on this show anymore. I'm bored of them.
Yeah.
But I know fuck all about them, really. The only thing I can get is that they have a shithouse manager, and they constantly have a shithouse manager. They've gone from Joey Barton to Scott Brown, who are, if I said to a 20-year-old kid, name me two shithouses of the last 10 years, it'd be those two. You know what I mean? Aidan Flint probably being the other one. You know what I mean? He's probably going to manage Fleetwood at some point in the future. Now, Ben, John, do you have anything to add to that whatsoever? Because I am absolutely done with talking about Fleetwood.
No, move on. I just think, like Simon said, I think we were one ball away from drawing Man United away. I think it might have been a bit different had that been the case if we'd have beat Fleetwood. But yeah,
I think it's just one of them. I never like it when we draw someone from the same league. You know, when you're in a cup run and the ball's going to the hat, and you're thinking, "Come on, let's get a Premiership team. Let's get one of the big six or whatever, or even somebody decent, high-end Championship." Because I think when you draw them, you think they might underestimate you, like Newcastle did, and we turned them over. But when you draw somebody in the same league, it's always like, you don't really want it. And even if we'd have got through, our luck could have been that Ipswich would have won the Burnley game, we'd have caught for them. So I just think, after the high of Plymouth, I agree. I think some of the players probably didn't want it. But Backinson probably feels like that taxi driver that, Banner's getting all airport runs and Backinson has to pick somebody up from Wyvern and take him to.
Yeah.
Just like, come on, man, when am I going to get my chance? So nobody wants it. Nobody wanted that game. They just turned up. Just turned up, didn't want it. Rolled over. See you later. Let's go home and think about Ipswich.
Yeah.
Thinking about Ipswich. I can think about other things in bed but Ipswich. But talking of Ipswich, earlier on I caught up with this chap. Okay, welcome back to another part of Hello from the Other Side, where I talk to somebody from the other side. It's as simple as that. Today I'm talking to Rossco from the Kings of Anglia podcast. Ross, are you all right, pal?
Yeah, looking forward to the game this weekend, mate. A big game. Two of the top dogs in League One. Bring it on, my friend.
Well, I tell you what, it's interesting because, a lot's been made of Derby County's charge of late, of they've been tearing up the league. I mean, are you looking over your shoulder to them or what? What do you reckon?
Yeah, sadly, it's becoming that case now because we've dropped points, we've lost some games, and for a while we were running away with it. Really, we're like, okay, it's just going to be a battle of the three teams, yourselves and Plymouth. But now Derby are creeping up, Barnsley bowling a little bit. So sadly, Derby are going to be one of those teams. Are like, oh, okay, when we play them, it's going to be massive.
Well, that's a lovely segue into what I was going to ask you in terms of case to the X. So there's a couple of players that Derby have got in Mendes Lang that we had last season, and Joe Wildsmith in goal. And fair play to him, it didn't really work out at Sheffield Wednesday for them, especially Mendes Lang, who a lot of fans would blame for not tracking back in the playoff semi-final last season. But they seem to be doing okay, and you guys have got George Hurst, and there's a lot to be said about George Hurst and Massimo Luongo, who played for you in a few years ago. So let's start with Mass. How's he getting on? Is he all right? Are you looking after him?
Well, he's. It sounds like he could be injured. He didn't travel on Tuesday night for the replay against Burnley, so that's not great. But when he has played, he actually played in the first game against Burnley at Portman Road when we drew 0-0, and it was fantastic when he came off the bench and he played really well. And I've always liked Massimo. I've always followed his career when he came on loan back in 2012 from Spurs, and he's gone on to go to Swindon and yourselves and QPR, and I've always liked him as a player. And when he signed, I thought that's a great signing for a free transfer. Was with you guys last year, was in the playoff team. And I thought that's a great signing. But then you also wonder, he hasn't played much football. He didn't play at Middlesbrough all season during that, last, first half of this season. So he's always up, is he going to be fit? He's only played a couple of games, but he's going to be a solid player, I'm sure, going forward. I don't know if he'll play this weekend. Will he be in the 18? I don't know. But a player that I like.
But you know what? I'm happy for him. There's a weird thing where, like, when Mass left, he posted something really cryptic on Instagram, something along the lines of, "Well, I didn't know I was leaving," or something that inferred that. And out of the players that so Darren Moore wanted to, rebuild his squad and get long-term players and all the rest of it. Luongo was one of those players that we were actually a bit, oh wow, he's gone. You know what I mean? Like, there's no real animosity there. However, moving on to the other case of the X that you've got in George Hurst, he's not our mate. I don't know if you know the entomology of this story. So his dad is an absolute Sheffield Wednesday legend from back in the 90s. And there was a point where I think his dad was kind of involved in trying to negotiate a new contract and try to get him some more money. And we played him in a few championship games, and he didn't really set the world on fire. Well, he's not David Hurst, if I'm honest. You know what I mean? And what happened was Leicester tried to buy him. We told them you can't have him. And then their feeder team from, I want to say, Finland or somewhere, or Holland or somewhere like that. He went there for a season, then ended up at Leicester, then he's been loaned out, then he was at Portsmouth and at Rotherham, and there was a really interesting bit where we needed to secure playoffs last season, and we needed to beat Portsmouth to make sure we were 100% in the playoffs, so we didn't have to, wait on any other scores for that day. And, I live on the south coast. I've driven up to Hillsborough. I've got all that way to sit there. And 7 minutes in, George Hurst has spanked one absolutely unmarked at our home end and shushed us all. Albeit, we did go on to win that game 4-1, but that was a tentative 20 minutes.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
So, as far as the Sheffield Wednesday fans are concerned, George Hurst isn't going to get a warm welcome. And when you chaps signed him, there was a point where we thought, well, sod him, he's been rubbish. He's not scored any goals, but then scored against Burnley, didn't he?
He did, but it was a very scrappy goal. You can claim it because, as a striker, you're always going to claim your goals. But if you watch it back, it could be a case for an own goal. But once again, he's a player that Kieran McKenna, the manager at Ipswich Town, has been chasing for a while. He's really liked him. He was trying to sign him in the summer. Didn't happen. Went to Blackburn. Didn't work out for him at Blackburn. And then in the window, we signed him, and he's on loan for the season. and he's still trying to get fully up to speed. I will admit, the first few games, I was like, I don't know about this chap. I don't know. He's very raw and he's a bit rusty. But there is a player there. And when this game was coming on the horizon, I was like, okay, this is going to be the big talking point going into this game, and I'm sure he's going to be well up for this. But the question mark will be, will he start? Because we've got Freddie and Dapo. Both of them are going to be competing for that position. So that'd be the big question mark going into this one. Will he start against his former team, or will Dapo come in? That is going to be the big question. But George Hurst, I'm sure he's going to be well up for it, as you said, against his former club and his dad. Maybe his dad's going to be at the game, most likely. You think so? The legend being with you guys, you think he could be there at Portland Road?
If he is, my heart will flutter.
Yeah.
So there's a you mentioned the Dapo just prior. Then would you say he's your biggest threat for this game?
Yeah, I think so. He's the target man up top. He's been scoring the goals. It's been going under the radar in terms because Town fans have been frustrated because we haven't had that 20-goal a season striker for years, and they're hoping Freddie Dapo was going to be that man. And he's for some reason, he's very 50-50 on the fan base. I think some fans love him. Some fans think, I don't think he's good enough. He's not going to score us the goals. But he's quietly gone under the radar. I think he's scored 13 goals so far. Some of them have been in the cup against some lower league teams, but they all count, don't they? Strikers count them all. But he's definitely going to be a threat. If he starts, he's a big lad. I'm sure your defenders will have a good game against him. But he's definitely a player to look out for. And I'm sure he's going to be well up for this game. He scored against Plymouth in the game against them at Home Park. So I'm sure he wants to score against another promotion rival.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned earlier on about the three teams that were going to fight it out amongst themselves. And I agreed with you. I thought you were right. But there's been a couple of years with Plymouth are an interesting one. Now, Plymouth have gone hell for leather for years now, and they absolutely go bound into the top league. And then they just fall away. Now, do you feel like Plymouth have managed to get over that hurdle a little bit, or are you hoping for another Plymouth collapse?
Yeah, definitely this season, because last year we were completely out of the playoff race. I famously said actually on our podcast that the season was dead in January because we just had a bad result, and I just went, we're not. The season's done. Let's not even bother. Turn up, play a game, whatever, play the 90 minutes, but there's no point because we're not going to get in the playoffs. This year is very different. We're up there, thankfully. We have spent a bit of money, so you hope to be up there. I actually called Plymouth dark horses last season because I just thought they made some good recruitment. Even though Ryan Lowe left and went to Preston, I still thought they had a good squad. And, when we played them, I thought they had a good footballing side. This year, I feel they're different. Although they have had a big injury update with Michael Cooper, their keeper, going to be out for the rest of the season. That's going to be, for any club, to lose your main goalkeeper is a massive loss, massive blow. But I think they may just have enough. Even though Morden Whitaker is now gone back to Swansea, that's another big miss. But I think they maybe just have enough to cling on to at least playoffs this year. But I think at the moment, for me, I'm not saying this on your podcast, but I think you guys are going to do it, aren't you? You're definitely in the top two, probably win the title. Plymouth, I think they'll be up there. I think once again, we failed to beat them both times we faced them. You guys did beat them, so you got that over them. We just got to hope other teams beat them as well. But that's the thing this year. We're chasing. So which is a frustrating thing. But maybe you guys, we're hunting you now. So
we're the team to beat now, aren't we? This is new ground for us. I mean, a lot of teams come to Hillsborough and they want to turn up and all the rest of it. But there's an element of now, oh Christ, we're top of the tree, you know what I mean? There's something new here, and then when we've had to play Fleetwood 3 times in the last 3 months with cup draws and rearranged fixtures and all the rest of it, and they got one over us on Tuesday, last night, and they really came to not play football, to really shut us down, and there's an element of when you're one of those big clubs, and Ipswich are in that same bracket where they've got these big stadiums, they've got this big following. And they just want to come up, shut up shop and see if they can grind out a 0-0 or maybe head in a corner or something like that. And I tell you what, League One's grim, innit?
Oh. Or Fleetwood came to Portland Road, a few months back, and they scored like a 94th minute equaliser. It was just a deflection, and it was just deflating it was so deflating because you think, we've grinded out a 1-0 win here, and then out of nowhere, boom. And, Fleetwood fans, I always praise them because, that's a long way to go for them. That was a Tuesday night, and I think there's like maybe 50 people there for Fleetwood in the away end. so that they were happy they got the equaliser. But yeah, teams like Fleetwood and Morecambe and stuff, when they come to Portland Road or Hillsborough, it is a big day out for them because it's a massive stadium against a big team, with our history and stuff. Once again, I hate saying that, but we do have the history, Jeff Wednesday, Ipswich, and everything. But yeah, their teams is just so hard to, grind down and get a result. And thankfully this season we've changed that a little bit. We've been able to beat those sort of teams. Last year we couldn't beat any of the newly promoted teams.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what was the difference between last season and this? What do you reckon the main difference is? Because I thought you were going to be one of the big hitters last season, and something didn't quite gel. Has there been some big changes there?
Yeah, the big word was, time to gel. Paul Cook was the manager. That was his first full, transfer window in the summer. He signed 19 players. 19 players is just ridiculous for any football club. So the question was we didn't have a good start to the season. We had a few draws and defeats here and there. And the question was, time to gel. These players need time. We've got a whole new first 11 here. And then we got our first win in September. We had a few other good results, and then with some bad results, and then it was just time for him to go. And then McKenna came in, and he's just changed the style of football. He signed some very good players as well. He has got the money to do that. So that is the complete difference from last year to this year. We've got a lot of curses. Ipswich Town is a cursed football club with different things. So like beating the newly promoted teams, winning on Sky, just winning the big matches. Like we played Portsmouth back in October, and we could never beat a top 6 team or a top 10, at least a top 10 team, and we've done that this year. But we still didn't beat Plymouth, but that's what it is. So that's what we didn't have to do last year. We didn't beat them at their place, and we didn't beat them this year at their place. But that's the difference, I think, is the mentality with the squad a little bit, although it's still there in the background because we've been fought. I don't know if you saw the Charlton game. We were 4-2 up in the 95th minute. And then they scored 2 goals and 4-4. It was still scarred from that day. And I think that's from that moment. I don't think the players have got over it really because that happened in November, and since then it's very different to the start of the season.
Do you get those tentative last 10 minutes that when you're trying to defend a 1-0 and all the crowds start to get edgy and everybody starts screaming every clearance? I mean, we had an element of that last season where we didn't see any of the results out. We threw away a lot of points and things like that, and it's an unpleasant place to be when you've got best part of 30,000 people say get rid of it. You know what I mean? It's hard work. All right, so I'm just gonna finish on. Obviously I'm going to ask you for a prediction, but I just want to finish on this one. There was a point where we were looking for a new manager, as we've been through about 12 in the last 5 minutes, probably as we've been talking here. Darren Moore's been there now for a long time, but there was a point where we wanted Paul Cook, where I think he interviewed for the role, and I think we ended up with Tony Pulis at the time after Gary Monk's departure. And Paul Cook went there, and I thought, oh, hang on a minute. He's a wily manager. He knows what he's doing. What do you think it was? Was it just literally just a case of cohesion and it just didn't happen? Or as McKenna brought in a load of different players, different type of player, that type of thing? What do you think it was?
Once again, the Town team now is still a lot of Paul Cook signings. Sam Morsey, the captain, Christian Walton in goal, players like Lee Evans, Wes Burns, Connor Chaplin was a Paul Cook signing. I think, it was just some people maybe think, did he have enough time? He got sacked in December, but there were some bad results, and the football wasn't too bad, but there was just moments where you think maybe he's not the right man, and it was a very interesting situation because we got new owners back in March and last year, and the question mark was Paul Cook the old Marcus Evans owner appointment, or was he the new guys? And that's what the big question mark was when the new owners came in. Was he the appointed man? And Mark Ashton is our CEO, and he's the man who brought in McKenna. And some people think no, he's brought in McKenna. He's his sort of man. He wants to sort of lead this team. He's not going to be the character that Paul Cook is. Paul Cook, he's got credentials. He's won promotion out of this division. He's won League Two titles. He's done a lot of great things at Wigan and stuff in Portsmouth. But I think maybe it wasn't, Mark Ashton and the owner's man. I think they wanted someone else. They wanted a young upcoming manager, someone hungry who had some good ideas. Paul Cook, he's a good enough manager to an extent, but I think he didn't really have a plan B. And I think McKenna, at times, can get a bit worried. I think, has he got a plan B? Because we've had a few results this year. But I think a lot of Town fans have been really impressed by McKenna because he's a very intelligent young man. He's 36. As a was a big risk to bring in a young manager, and he's at Man United assistant. But yeah, Paul Cook was a shame it didn't happen because I liked the appointment at first, but I think it was the right decision overall.
Okay, so this is that point of the bit where I'm going to ask you. I'm going to trouble you for a prediction. Is there anybody you've got your eye on where you're thinking if they're on their game, they're going to cause us some problems? I mean, what do you reckon? How do you feel it's going to go this weekend?
Oh, for some reason, I'm actually pretty good at predictions on our podcast. I've had some good ones right. So it could be not good for you guys if I do say my prediction is right. But I'm sure, like a lot of people, they're going to do the typical prediction: a draw. 1-1 draw, 2-2, maybe a goalless draw, two good footballing sides. I'm edging to a draw. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty boring. But I think that's the predictable scoreline. When two big dogs face each other, that's what normally happens. I'm going to go for a 1-1. I think that's the standard in it. I think maybe we'll take the lead. The big crowd, great atmosphere. It's going to be packed out Portman Road. It's great. When we went to Hillsborough, it's great atmosphere. And then, Portman Road will be the same. So I think we'll take the lead, and then you guys will probably score and equalise. That's what happened with Plymouth. We were 1-0 up. Happy days. Everyone was happy. And then they go and equalise. For God's sake. Here we go again. So that's what's going to happen, likely.
All right. Well, listen, Rossco, thanks a lot for joining us, man. And, Kings of Anglia podcast, get it where you can get all the podcasts, right?
Yep, pretty much.
No worries. Thanks a lot for joining us. See you later. Thanks a lot to those guys. So, right, lads, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. It's the quiz this evening. I haven't checked this quiz. I haven't looked round it. I haven't done my homework on it, but I'm still going to guarantee you it's better than what Blair can produce when I'm not here. So,
I got pulled to one side.
I
got pulled to one side by a chap. If I mention him, I didn't get his name, but he lives down in Bath, and he sort of collared me as I was queuing for the loo at half time on Saturday. And his first words were, "Where the hell did Blair get that quiz from?" It wasn't like, it was, I turned around and went, "Oh, hello." Yeah, sorry about that. My one and only hosting, probably.
Yeah,
I thought it was a bit sus when he's saying, like, Fletcher's in top 25. I'm like,
yeah, but the rest of us all agreed with it. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Listen, if it's written down, you can't disagree with it. You know what I mean? That's the rules. So, right. So, this one's fairly bog standard. It's going to test a few. It's going to test a few brains. And I tell you what, like I said, this is a really popular bit of the show, but it also pisses people off because I don't think they understand just how much pressure is on you when all of a sudden I go, so then this is the question, and everything you just forget straight away. It's mental. So the quiz this week, easy as Sheffield Wednesday managers from 1990 onward. That's it. Simple as that. Let's go. So I'm going to go. Go on.
Does this involve caretakers and all that rubbish?
It does involve caretakers, yes. I've got all them in front of me. Thanks again to Martin Beebe, who does provide some quality quizzes, unlike Blair. So
from when? Sorry, did you say, Dan? From when?
I tell you what, I'm gonna tell you it's Ron Atkinson onward. So I'll give you the first one. So Ron Atkinson, everybody after. It's as simple as that, right? So
okay.
I'm going to go John, Ben, and Simon. I've not got my notebook. Oh, there we are. I've got it. I've got it with me. And I've done this notebook list today, and it's you can tell. So, right. So, John, you never know. You don't usually get to go first, so I'm going to go with you first. John, name me a manager on the list from Ron Atkinson.
Terry Yorath.
Terry Yorath is there. Ben.
Brian Laws.
Brian Laws is there. Simon.
Peter Shreves.
Shrigor, he is there. Back to you, John. Hang on, I tell you what. I should mark these, shouldn't I? Just because, when you said to me, "Has he gone?" I'll be like, "Oh yeah."
How many have we got? How many are there done?
Oh, hang on, let me have a look. We've got one, including Atkinson.
45.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Jesus, wept. Right, so hang on. Who did you say, John, to start with?
Trevor Francis.
Trevor Francis, Tricky Trev. He's second on the list, well, first on the list. And then, Ben, you had...
Yeah, it's Fudge, your audio has gone haywire all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Oh, did it? My apologies. Sorry, I'll go again.
It sounds like you're talking at 2 times speed of sound.
Yeah, it does.
Still fucked. Is he still fucked?
Yes, it is.
Really?
You sound like Alan Ball.
How quick did it do it? Has it gone back to normal?
It's all right now. Yeah, it has. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'll come back to that. So, hang on, Ben. Who did you say in the quiz?
I'll go Carlos.
No, who did you say to start with? I'm just catching up here.
Oh, sorry. I said Brian Laws.
Brian Laws. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So, we're back to John. John, who did you say? So, John, we're back to you.
Steve Bruce.
Steve Bruce. There he is. He's there. Steve Bruce. That's John. Right. Ben?
Carlos, I'll go for.
Carlos Carvalhal. He's there. Simon?
Chris Turner.
Chris Turner. He's there. He's not. He's still available. Right. Then back to you, John.
Paul Sturrock.
Luggy. Where is he? There he is.
Okay.
He's on my list. There he is. Luggy's there. Ben?
Dave Jones.
Dave Jones. There he is. There he is. Dave Jones. He's on the list. Simon, back to you.
Gary Megson.
Megoland. The Megmeister General. He's there. All right, then. Back to you, John.
Lee Bullen.
Lee Bullen. Lee Bullen. Caretaker 3 times. So if you separated, we've already had Peter Shreves and Lee Bullen. If you separated theirs into they're 3 each. So
Wow.
not only out of the 20 odd I've got, you can also add another 4 just for Shrigor and the Bulldog. So right, back to Ben.
Darren Moore.
Morrow. Here he is, bottom of the list. There he is. Look, that's it. Darren Moore. Simon.
Danny Wilson.
Danny Wilson has not gone yet. There he is. Back to you, John.
Tony Pulis.
Oh.
I must admit, Tony Pulis' comments in the media recently were very respectful. There's a lot more he probably wanted to say because of non-disclosure agreements, and I appreciate the skepticism from a lot of people online. But tell you what, we can just go, look, you weren't the right fit. See you later. Fair play. I'll give him that. I'll give it him. But you're right. He should have done better when he was there, though. Ben.
Gary Monk.
Full of Gary Monk. There it is. He's there. Simon.
Paul Jewell.
Paul Jewell. There he is. Paul Jewell. Did anybody see that rumor of him in his homemade sex tape? Did anybody see that?
No.
If you Google it, there is a man on some homemade grumble movie that is a spitting image of Paul Jewell, and I am determined to find out whether it's really him or not. Like, I really
I
am.
feel like I've heard something like that on Under the Cosh about something like that.
Yeah, it's a thing because this geezer is literally the spitting image of him. Like I've never seen out like it. All right, back to John. There you are.
I'm not sure if we said this one. Josh Luhukai.
Josh Lukai. We haven't said Dross. Cross between Freddie Mercury and Droopy the dog. Ben.
Stuart Gray.
Stuart Gray, caretaker, then manager. As such, now one of the top end coaches in the Premier League. That's great, isn't it? Simon.
Alan Irvine.
Alan Irvine, he's got to be on here. Where is he? He's got to be on here. Alan Irvine, there he is. Highly recommended and didn't really set the world on fire. John.
I'm really struggling now.
There's a couple of big ones you're missing here, lads.
Is there? From when? 1990.
1990. So it goes Atkinson, and one of you's already had Trevor Francis.
Yeah. So we'd have had
I'm going to have to hurry you for an answer there, John.
no, I can't think of one, honestly.
All right, that's John giving up
Pass.
the GOAT at 6. Ben?
Have we had Terry Yorath?
We have not had Terry Yorath, so you can have Terry there. There he is.
I said Terry
Simon?
Yorath, didn't I?
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I think you did, actually. No, we have had Terry Yorath, actually. Yes, I've got him. Sorry, I didn't mark him off. Go on, Ben, try again.
Neil Thompson.
Neil Thompson, that's a cracking one because he did hold the reins. Simon,
David Pleat.
David Pleat is the big one. I thought you all got years about 4 rounds ago. There's Pleato. Right now we're into some absolute dross here, lads. And I tell you what, it's going to take. It's going to take some doing this.
How many is there?
How many is there left?
Yeah,
there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're all short termers.
How many have you got, Si, in your head? So I've only got one.
I to be honest, can't remember what we've said and what we hadn't said because I've not been writing them down. I'm struggling now, to be honest.
Is it my go? It's my go.
Yeah,
it's your go, Ben.
Sean McCauley.
Sean McCauley is the biggest one of those names that we've got. 2 times in charge. Wow. Sean, Academy Manager McCauley. Right then, Simon. I think you're going to struggle here, pal, unless you pull one right out the bag.
Right, just bear with me. Bear with me.
I think I've said all ones I've seen.
These are hard.
You've been through all ones I've seen.
I think you might be missing 2, Ben. But I'll put you out of your misery in a bit.
I might have one in that case.
Go on, Ben. Go on, Simon. I'm going to have to hurry you for an answer.
No, mate, I can't. I don't know.
All right. Ben, have you got any more?
Ben's one again.
You're saying that there's 2 from sort of 2007, 6, 7 onwards?
Yeah.
Russ Wilcox?
No, I've not got Russ Wilcox on the list, so I don't know
wonder
if take charge.
One of Steve Bruce's assistants might have took over for a game or 2 while they came over from his cricket watching days.
Can you name him?
Steve Agnew.
Yeah.
Steve Agnew was one.
Steve Clemens.
Steve Clemens was the other. So that's the 2 I thought you'd get, Ben. And then the other side of that, you've got Andy Holdsworth, the academy coach.
I was going to say him, but I didn't think it were because he took the game down the Exeter, didn't he?
Yeah, took over as Thompson had COVID, and Mark Smith after Chris Turner, and there was Bill Green after Terry Yorath. With the ones you were missing, but I tell you what, lads, in terms of how shit we normally do on those quizzes, that was actually quite impressive. I'm actually that weren't too bad, lads. Right,
I thought Andy Holdsworth, but I didn't think that he'd be on just for one game. I thought
they're all there, mate. They're all there. Marty, don't fuck about. You're not playing with Blair now. You know what I mean? all the info's there. Okay, so right, last thing to do, John. I'm going to come to you first. Give me an Ipswich prediction.
Obviously, it's away. It's going to be a tough game. They're going to want to try and beat us. I'm hoping we come back some points, but I'm going to go 1-1.
That's quite sensible. That, John. What about you, Ben?
I'd be happy with 1-1.
Well, I think 1-1's where the sensible money is. Simon, what are you saying? 5-0?
I was going to say 2-0 Wednesday.
Go for it, mate. Fuck it. Why not? I'm going to say 1-0 Wendy, actually. I'm going to go for it. I'm going for it because I think we've got the difficult... So a bit of windy pops there. We've got the difficult one out of the way. Mm-hmm. And I think we're unstoppable now. I think our confidence is so high. I think we're absolutely going to tear them apart. And because they're in a bit of a shit form at the minute. Derby are picking up points. I think Derby are going to probably steal 3rd. And hopefully lose it in the playoffs. I'd be really happy with that. But anyway, chaps, thanks a lot for joining us this evening. There's only one thing that remains me to say, and that is fly high, fellow owl. Big shout out to Serge Ostrom, who unfortunately passed away the other night just before recording. He was one of the big owls in the community in the online community, and I'm sorry to say he passed away from a long battle with cancer. But this one's dedicated to you, Serge. Thanks a lot for joining us. See you later.
The Wednesday Week is sponsored by Michael Constantine Wealth Management. We bet you can't find a financial advisor closer to Hillsborough Stadium.